All right, great. Well, we've assembled here an amazing Ocean's 11 team of people from all different walks of life to have hopefully an animated panel discussion about some of the unprecedented challenge and maybe opportunities that we're seeing in ophthalmology today. And I'll show you our panel here. I think we have it, might be on the next slide. It needs no introduction. But what we're going to do here is have three what we call mini keynotes, very quick talks from three of our esteemed speakers here. Here's our whole panel. So we've got Andrew really representing banking, Kristen, the commercial marketplace with market research, Doug, who's very interesting, being both a venture capitalist and having recently exited the FDA. We'll have some very interesting perspectives. Stephen, we all know. Zach, thank you very much, coming for the first time here from RA Capital, which has over 10 billion under management. So one of the things we look for at this meeting is who has a checkbook to actually invest in companies. So I think Zach hopefully brought that with him. And of course, Jeff, who also is an investor at Visionary. This is the only real pure play ophthalmology investor. So we think we'll have a good dialogue here. So what I'll do is I'll start it off with Andrew, who's going to come up and tell us about the capital markets and how much fun he's having in them right now as an investment banker.
Yeah, you can see from my picture I grew a beard as a rally beard. Maybe that will get the market to go up. So state of the public markets, probably more like the anarchy of the public markets, given how volatile it's been lately. No better way to show it than our time-tested, proprietary, AI-enabled, highly sensitive, algorithmic Wall Street fundometer, which you can tell is not doing too well these days. I don't need to go through the reasons why, we all get it, and I certainly didn't want to come here today and just beat an endless drum of negativity. That wouldn't be fun, particularly kicking off the session here. So I wasn't sure what to do. When you don't know what to do these days, I was told by my daughter, you ask ChatGPT. So I asked ChatGPT how to make bad news sound good. And to my surprise, it actually was really helpful. I won't go through all of them. We got 5 minutes, but lead with empathy and honesty, and we'll end with some optimism. I will say on the optimistic point out of the way, Chris Goldstein, my colleague who would normally be here, is on paternity watch, so he's going to have an Arvo baby, Gil, so maybe that's a nod to the future here. So lead with empathy and honesty. Honestly, the markets are down, and I feel very sorry and empathetic about it. And for all the public companies out there, being a banker, I feel your pain, and I see you and I feel you. I'll talk a bit about the XBI today. It's a biotech index. It sort of captures a lot of what we're doing in this room. We know the reasons why. It's listed here. I will draw your attention just to the top two charts there. The XBI, again, this is sort of status quo. It hasn't reached an all-time high in over 4 years. And when you look down the list of the other broader markets, they've actually had better times more recently. And notably, the broader markets were actually up year over year, even including the recent volatility. Not biotech. So we've sort of been living this to some extent for some period of time. Top right, volatility, we get it. It hasn't been this volatile since the early part of the COVID outbreak. I will say our ECM team shared a stat with me recently which sort of floored me. The average intraday volatility of publicly traded stocks has been 7%. That's per day. That's what you would expect in a year. Makes it really hard to price deals, both M&A as well as equity. So highlight the silver lining. So the silver lining here is going to be private financing, thanks to folks like Zach on the panel here and Jeff. It's been all told pretty consistent and resilient. Now, it's haves and have-nots. There's, for those that can raise, have raised very well. And you can look at the first quarter, which is going to be the top left box there, the furthest right column there showing $6 billion year to date. When you annualize it, that gets you to some good numbers. The other two diagrams showcase crossover financing, which is basically the last round a private company would ostensibly do before going public. And it shows you that there's activity there, so investors are still willing to position themselves for an IPO window. So that's window opening. That's the silver lining. So emphasizing the action plan. Lots of ways to go through this. There's things that are in our control. There are things that are not in our control. IPO performance, a good way to sort of look at investor sentiment and how investors are thinking about our industry publicly at least, and has implications for how Private companies get finance. It has downstream effects to M&A. Red is not good. I won't go through all of them, but you can see on the right-hand side, IPO performance has not been good. You've got stocks that are down even as much as 90%. So what do you do? What's the action plan? I think it's being honest about where your valuation is. It's about setting priorities. You can't do everything, so it's about managing capital, regardless of whether you're private or public, and it's being open-minded about financing, as well as alternative sources of capital. One of the nice things, again, the silver lining, is that there's been a great partnership amongst the strategics and innovative companies in coming up with these novel ways to finance programs. We can skip over that one. Using positive language. Okay, so normally I'd say who's performing well and who's not. I'll just do various degrees of well. You can see that ophthalmology as a whole is outperforming that of the broader market, or at least the biotech index. I won't say that if you exclude Alcon, it isn't. We're going to keep this positive for the positive sentiment. The top performers are on the top left there. Combination of reasons why. I will highlight Alcon not only because they're a sponsor, but they have created $6 billion in market cap, consistent revenue and earnings growth, and generally perceived as being defensive, particularly in today's more difficult economic environment. Bottom right, underperformers, combination of profit taking and some data setbacks. From ending with optimism here in the last few seconds I have, M&A. I fully expect M&A to continue. Dislocation in pricing creates opportunistic opportunities. We've seen some good activity over the past couple of years. We expect that to continue as strategics continue to invest in their core areas, but also expand into adjacencies. And there's been a couple of notable deals in the past year. You've seen activity with Bausch & Lomb buying Elios Vision on the glaucoma side. You've seen early stage technology, like in the case of iBio being acquired, and more recently we saw cell therapy also make its debut into the M&A landscape with the Orion transaction. We expect that to continue. And with that, I am out of time and want to thank the panel for being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Oh, that was me. Let's see if I can get my slides. So you guys, Andrew touched on a lot of my points today, which is fantastic because it makes me feel really smart. So I'm going to focus in a little bit more on the ophthalmology market and what's happening on that side of things specifically. So I always like to start with where we are, and then I'm going to focus in on two markets in particular that are especially affected by, oh, I love all the phones going up, please go ahead. Two markets in particular that are going to be affected by a more volatile market out there. So in 2024 market scope, we're valuing the global ophthalmic market at $48.8 billion. These are manufacturer level revenues, if you aren't familiar how we estimate things. We are expecting overall about a 4.5% combined annual growth rate through 2029. Pulling out glaucoma devices in the IOL segments, those are poised to grow the fastest in that time frame. And then retina pharma will be growing the slowest, but keep in mind that's from a very large base, so we're not too concerned with that. So the two specific segments I wanted to look at are refractive surgery and IOLs. Because there is the patient pay or elective component to this, these are the ones that are most likely to be affected by a volatile economic climate. We'll call it that. So if we look back about 20 years in refractive surgery, this gives us a nice view of two different climates that may have some correlation here. So I pulled out the 2008 recession as well as COVID, both of which really impacted the market. And really, you start to see that first decline in refractive volume demand right around the end of 2007, and you see it really start going down there. There was not much recovery until you get to about 2017. We're starting to see a little life in the market, and then COVID hits, and we have a shutdown, which of course kind of stomps that growth right there. And then 2021, we were able to see a little bit of a bounce back. Largely, we think this is a little bit of pent-up demand because people were unable to get LASIK for a few months. But also probably some behavior shifts with mask usage and dry eye or glasses that led to a little bit of increase in just demand for the procedure. So when I look at why it was good, right, let's talk about the good things. The years that we were up above average, those were marked by economic optimism, a booming housing market, low unemployment. These are all things that affect that 18 to 40-year-old demographic pretty significantly. And that's interesting because if we flip over and look at IOLs, we didn't see that same impact. So here you're looking at the percentage of IOLs that are presbyopia correcting going in. That's the blue line, And down later in the graph, I added some other IOL types in there because I think they're pertinent here. But if you look at those same time periods, we didn't see a decline in the penetration. And really, when we look at that, we say, okay, well, the patient population is different, right? So maybe these patients are a little bit more insulated from economic volatility. But also, we had some really great products come to market right around those same times. We had Restore, we had the Technis lens, we had the PanOptix and the Vivity close around COVID. And that technology hitting the market really provided a shock to the demand and gave it a little bit of a boost right when that market was declining. So what that tells me is, although we're going down a little bit in terms of PC penetration, the other types of models going in are gaining some momentum. So I think that this market has a lot of pull from the technology that's being introduced, which gives me a lot of optimism with all of you guys here talking about your new technology and what that could do for the market. So I also, too, like to talk about opportunities. When it is a volatile market, there are opportunities for all of us to kind of see success. To Andrew's point, these volatile markets tend to change spending and investment patterns. So the risk profile might change because there is not a lot of safe bets right now. So perhaps investing in an earlier stage company and maybe getting a good price for it is a little bit more appealing. The effects of volatility, as we all know, these are going to be unequally distributed, both in terms of your patients, in terms of practices, and in terms of companies. If you have a little bit more cash on hand, this is going to help you weather any storms that come, maybe delay in payments or supply chain hiccups. Diversified product lines should fare better. If you're on multiple markets, you're going to decrease some of that geographic volatility. And I think this is really an opportunity for all of us to build trust through authenticity and clear communication. I wanted to give a shout out to Bausch & Lomb with their recent recall communications. I thought they did a great job of very clearly explaining the problem and being very forthright with what was going on in the return to market. I thought this was a great example of that. I think we could do that both from a commercial side and from a practice side. And then one of my favorite Warren Buffett comments is that when the tide goes out, we do see who's been swimming naked. When there is economic volatility, your patients, your practices, there's going to be a flight to quality. People are willing to invest in options that are going to give them that return on their investment, but they will be more displeased with negative outcomes. So we kind of have to be aware of that. So thank you guys so much, and I'm looking forward to the panel.
Thank you to the Eyecelerator organizers and the Academy. I love this meeting. It's so future focused, and that's unique and special. So thank you for having us today. I wanted to share with you some perspective on our current environment. On April 2, when President Trump changed the rules on international trade, he triggered a storm that hasn't stopped yet. It was major, it was violent, and in addition to the activities that had been taking place in Washington prior to that time, we have a completely different state of affairs than we did before. So that reminded me of another storm that had some important lessons for me. I want to share that with you. In the late 70s, I used to crew on racing sailboats in Southern California, and I enjoyed it, and I will tell you that offshore sailboat racers are a tough group. They are about the equivalent of a New York cockroach in terms of survivability. So in 1979, Fastnet race started. This is the elite race in the yachting circuit in Europe. 300 boats started the race. 2 days were pretty uneventful. It's a 600-mile race up to the southern tip of Ireland and back. And these were the best of the best sailors in the world. So day 3, a storm hit. It was a big deal. This is a storm that was unlike any most had seen before. So force 11 winds, that's 60-knot winds, 50-foot seas. And everybody was challenged equally in the context of how big this storm was. And what really struck me about this was how different the performance was of the top and bottom of the fleet. So if you kind of think about the people who struggled with that, it was catastrophic. There were 75 sailboats fully capsized. There were 15 that sank. People died. It took 4,000 people to recover from this. But on the other end of the spectrum, there was a completely different experience. So the better managed, more skilled, better equipped, tacked their sails, paid attention, did their best on the weather, and they were able to create a really great result. In that context, 28% of the fleet came home and completed the race. Now, most of us in the investment world think that's a pretty good venture capital probability of success. If you get to 28, you're doing great. But you know, they did some more things there too, and really the lesson was, using those conditions, they set a course record that was 8 hours better than any time prior on that multi-day race. Now, sailboat races take place over multi-days. You don't win by hours, you win by minutes. But in this context, let me let you think about it this way. If this were the Indy 500, that was about 10% better than any time ever done before. If that were the Indy 500, the winner would have been sitting in the winner's circle for 20 minutes before the next guy showed up. So really great opportunity when we have things like this that are challenging. Some will win and some will not, and that's really kind of where we are. So let's talk about, I really want to talk about two things. One is the environment, and the other is what does that mean for investing in ophthalmology and how we do there. So I think what I'm serving to do here is to kind of give you observations of what we're seeing in our portfolio companies and how we are experiencing this. There's a very experienced panel with deep expertise, far broader than mine, and so I'm sure that there will be some contrasting opinions, and that's what we're saying this for, so that's fine. But let's talk about kind of the pieces of tactical stuff we need to deal with. First is the FDA changes. We have a new commissioner. He says he's going to make things get done faster. And interestingly, the Wall Street analysts who cover life sciences are all saying, you know, the FDA has had some disruption, but it's more or less on track in terms of processing NDAs. My personal experience with our portfolio companies is that we are seeing that take place with, but that's a very small end. There's a whole universe of companies that have a different experience. Let's talk about that today. I think it's really important. So the commissioner is talking about, you know, things as dramatic as only a single pivotal study for going forward, which would be helpful to industry and helpful to investing. Is it real? I don't know. So far, there have been 2 slip PDUFA dates that I'm aware of. There may be more, but you know, it's still working. It's not singing, but it's working. So, so the next thing to keep in mind is the general environment, the economy. So none of us are in control of the economy, and we actually don't have any decisions we can make that would influence it. The most recent GDP numbers for Q1 were nominally negative, but had tons of imports in there as people raced to beat the quotas. So I don't think that's a good trend to look at. The more important thing here is that the administration and Congress are both trying to get us away from China in the biopharma market. 80% of the companies involved in biopharma have some exposure to China. And that's a major theme for what the administration is trying to remove. They're trying to get it to be a more favorable environment here. I don't know how that's going to work, but clearly you're in trouble if you've got a lot of China exposure. If you look at, you know, one of the first things we do when we think about underwriting an investment is, will it work? Can I get it approved? And will I get paid? If I can't get paid, there's no point. So in reimbursement right now, Medicaid's under attack. We're hearing CMS is going to continue to pick up the cudgel of most favored nations pricings for drugs. So clearly drug pressure on prices. Ophthalmology has not been among that elite group of top 10 payers that get negotiated every year, and that group gets bigger every year. But you know, I think it still says status quo is not a good thing. You have to keep moving forward. So Andrew did a great job on this. I don't have a fundometer, but to me, you know, the big life science companies have done very well compared to the market. If you look at big pharma, their stocks are performing well. Biopharma is in trouble. In the last 2 years, 80% of the months, biopharma funds were negative in funds flow. So that means money's going out. So it's a tenuous situation. We need to pay attention to it. Life science, there's a lot less venture dollars being formed, fewer funds, fewer dollars. The real issue is on this right-hand side chart. If you look at how people are experiencing venture now, For every dollar of dry powder that's available to us invest in new companies, there's $5 of portfolio value already there. So historically, that ratio has been about 2 to 1. And that's not healthy. We need to recycle these companies or we can't continue to invest in the future. You guys have seen this chart from me before. $60 billion of ophthalmology M&A. You know, I think we get a rap for being narrow and have few buyers. And in fact, it's actually much more attractive than that. There have been, 23 strategics, 21 have done deals in the last 5 years. Deals are getting bigger. There is money. This is ophthalmology only. The bigger deals are, you see things like Avicida getting $200 million. So while we see the best and the brightest getting funded, it's a tough market. You have to be at elite level to do that. And it's very concentrated. Of that $700 million of funding in ophthalmology year to date in four months, that's 6 deals for 90% of it. So what's the lesson? Challenging environment. I think the important thing is that if you deal with reality with what you have, anticipate, be sensitive to it, and do work right, focus your actions on things that are the most important ones in terms of projects. So we think about those dollars coming into those companies. Those are all targeted at big unmet needs that will scale, reimburse, and be important to patients. So we're doing important things for patients. The demographics drive that. We're doing important things for society. Our projects are long. Some of these things take 5 years. Some take longer. And you can't be put off by the fact that it's a tough environment, but the bar is high and it continues higher. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you all your mini keynotes. That's great to kind of lay the groundwork. Now, what we'd like to do is go into a panel discussion for about the next 30 minutes, but we want this to be interactive with the audience. So we're going to do some live polling of the audience where we'll ask you some questions, and then we'll ask similar questions of the panel and see how people's sentiments kind of match up. And in preface to our panel discussion, we're going to be talking about some potential politically heated issues, so let's try to keep it at a high level here, and just get some general sense of what we can do in what obviously is quite a tough environment. So let's start the live polling with the first question is really for you in the audience, and you just scan your phones on this QR code, and you should pull up so you can answer this question is, what's the impact that you're seeing? We see there's been so much impairment of funding of all various types across all the healthcare ecosystem. Where are you on this scale? Is there none? Are you worried about it? Is it, starting already, or is it something really severe already? And we'll take a little while for this to tabulate so we get enough. I think we've got a total N of 400 in here, but maybe we get to 100 or so and we can show the results. What we're trying to get a sense here is this already hitting, or is this a concern for the future? Because obviously if it's already impacting people, that would be very ominous for, how are we going to deal with this? So here we're getting this, and so it's interesting how low. So let's let this fully load, but panel, you can react to this if you like, but this is showing, luckily nothing severe, but most people are being affected pretty significantly already. So this is something that's right here and now. So it's good we're right here to talk about it. So let's turn it back to the panel for the question to the panel, which is, really what are you guys seeing? And maybe Stephen and Kristen might be best to start this out in your world, where Stephen, you're seeing it more from the kind of society level, and Kristen maybe from the commercial marketplace, and we can open it up to the rest.
So, I'll step back a little bit from the society and actually pivot a little bit because, much of our interaction is obviously going to be with our academic medical centers. And so the obvious place where the first hit is in the NIH funding. Now, as you know, the bigger threat is the challenge to indirects. But I think the relevance to this audience really points to what extent does research activity in the AMCs actually make a difference to new drugs coming out or new devices coming out in the marketplace. So just a quick, so what would your guess be if you looked at, all of the new drugs that are coming out, how many of them are either started by or invented by someone in an academic medical center. 5%, 10%. So a study from a group in Washington that found that if you look at the Orange Book, between 2001 and 2019, 25%, a quarter. So granted, that's small molecules, but that's a lot. There was another study that looked at all of the new to targets over that time period. Okay, so there are about 83 new to targets. 100% of them got some NIH funding. It's actually a huge exposure. So that is going to be very big for us.
Kristen?
So on the commercial side, we're seeing a lot of we don't know. We don't know how it's going to impact us yet, and I think a lot of that has to do with what we've all been talking about. It's just the volatility. You know, one day it might be, you know, massive tariffs everywhere. One day it's focused on China. So I think, you know, as that starts to kind of work its way out, that will help. I do think there's a lot of folks anticipating some supply chain disruptions because of this, whether that be just getting component pieces over here or ingredients or the actual physical manufacturing. There's a lot of that going on of products having to be shipped here and there before they actually end up in the practices. And so these tariffs really are going to impact that as well as the supply chain. So I think that's a bit of an issue. You know, companies that are overly exposed to China or to one particular market are, I think, you know, really evaluating things right now and trying to prepare for what may come. But I think, you know, there's some hope and optimism, but I think there's also just a little bit of, you know, we're keeping our eye on it and we're being very careful as we move forward.
Really, really unprecedented times. Great. Well, let's go to the next question where we'll ask the audience again. Now we'll talk a little bit about the regulatory environment. And if we could have the polling question up to get the audience to give us some input. And if you're in some sort of FDA interactions of any sort, what are you experiencing recently? And is it business as usual? Is it an issue because of a change of personnel? Is it an issue that just it's crickets and nobody's responding? Or are there some major changes that your trial is being reconsidered, or either positive or negative, that there's some change in sort of what the rules were from when you started to where you are now? And give us a little feedback on this question so we can see how the audience is feeling. And then we'll see, we've luckily got Doug, who's maybe in the best position because he just left the FDA, so he can say maybe more than the usual. And the rest of our panel could comment on this, because I think probably everyone on this is affected some way or another. So this looks like some good news coming up here. That is, so far, it looks like the mode is that it's business as usual. And we're not seeing anything yet of the most concerning, which would be that trials are somehow being reconsidered. So, and actually the communication I thought would be higher up. So it looks like mainly we're in a pretty good state here. So let's turn it over to the panel and maybe bring up the next panel question here for people to consider, which really is, what do you think we could see this year? Will things be slowing up or speeding down? And is that poll valid, do you think? Maybe Doug, you go first, and Jeff, obviously you've got a lot of bets placed that rely on the FDA.
Well, I left FDA. I guess I'm still technically there. I took the fork in the road offer. So these remarks are my own and do not represent the FDA. But largely, I'm going to speak on the device side, the review groups are largely intact. It's more the recent hires that we'd hired, like Rusty Segan, who'd been an Army minimally invasive surgeon who was running OPAC, the Office of Product Evaluation and Quality, who'd been after he left the Army, he was at Olympus and J&J and Covidien. And he had more, I think, product development experience than anybody we've ever had in that position before. That's a huge loss, but he was a probationary employee. So on this, I guess on the larger strategic end, there's a gaping hole. And part of that was that Rusty really understood that the FDA is required for success, commercial success, but not the only thing that you need. And he had a much bigger strategic view. and he had, was thinking about how can we get to a 10-day 510K, and how can we use AI to help us manage the least risky parts of our business and save our review bandwidth for where we really needed it. And I think it's probably fair to say that a lot of that discussion has stopped, and it focused much more on just batten down the hatches, to use the sailing metaphor, and prepare for stormy seas. And I think in general, we haven't seen a lot of loss on the device side. I just saw that the pass back from OMB, which is basically the administration's idea of what they're going to ask for, actually saw a budget increase for CDRH, but CBER and CDER took some pretty big hits. So I think you'll see some more painful changes on the drug and biologic side. But I don't know if it's really affected review times yet. So that's now. And so that's okay, but you really got to think of the bigger picture. And the other thing to consider is that you could make the FDA 50% more productive, but you would not see 50% more drugs make it to commercial profitability or get on the market, because it's the integration with the rest of the ecosystem that's really lacking. And that was where a lot of the people that left were really going, was trying to integrate a lot of what the FDA and CMS does with what the rest of the ecosystem does. So that's painful, and it'll take some time for that to return to a place where maybe that's going to happen again. Most interesting thing is you're not going to hear a lot of criticism about the administration, and that's because from all the people involved in the process, at least from the government end and from the lobbying end, they don't want to be cut out of the conversation. So they're going to let things happen. They're going to see where it falls, and then they're not going to say, you dummy, you dropped the carton of eggs. Instead, they're going to stand back, and then when they realize the carton of eggs all the eggs are cracked, and it's not worth anything, they're going to go, well, let me help you get some more eggs.
Okay. Jeff, your thoughts?
I think I've already hit this one. I'd like to hear Zach's thoughts, because he's got a broad portfolio, too.
Yeah, Zach, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, we have over 100 companies in our portfolio. We've polled them all. We're not seeing an impact, and frankly, that poll was a little concerning to me. It looked like 20 to 25% of the audience is seeing slowdown or even trial design changes. So, our feeling is that the short term, everything is in place and working well, but we're really concerned in the medium term. The FDA is a crown jewel in our, drug and device development world, and to see sort of, cuts that are not well thought out or strategic, really concerning for the whole industry, I think.
Actually, I want to say something positive. So, when you have a culling like this, there is going to be a giant strategic reevaluation of what's the proper role for FDA and how can we interact with the rest of the community better. And so many senior people have left. And on the one hand, that's bad because they really understand how the machine works. But on the other hand, it's good because you're going to bring new people in who have never seen the machine before and say, why don't we do it this way instead of that way? So there could be a really big opportunity in the right context to make the FDA and HHS actually work much better.
Great.
The commentary from Macri is positive. That's another silver lining. I think we'll see what happens, but everything he's saying are things I think we can all agree on. Drugs and devices can be approved faster. So the devil will be in the details.
And one of the big concerns was that they were going to take all the review staff from all the branches of the FDA and combine them into functional sections, so that CBER, CDER, CDRH, and the others. They would eliminate the dividing line between reviewers and just have reviewers based on expertise, which I think enough people raised giant red flags that this is not a great idea. And McCary confirmed that he was not going to do that. There's not going to be any reorganization. So that's really good news.
Great. All right, let's move on to financing, and we've had a few talks here already about that. But let's go to our polling question about this, which is for many or most of you in the audience might be looking at a financing in the next year or two, or even the next few months. How do you see the prospect for financing this year compared to last year? What does it feel like for those of you who might be out there right now talking to people? Is it business as usual? Is it pretty good? Is it challenging as it always is, or is it really ugly? Has it suddenly gotten bad because of our externalities that are going on here? And we'll see where this loads up, and then we'll have maybe a few of our more finance people here or to talk about this. It's always hard to raise money for companies, but we go through these down cycles. Is this one, worse than others that we've experienced? That's what we're trying to calibrate here. So, we do have an antidepressant dispenser at a kiosk out in the back here. This is really just, it's a rough time right now. So this one, no one is saying it's business as usual, which is business as usual is hard raising money. So let's go to our panel question here to just, this is a pretty straightforward discussion of how are you guys seeing it? And, Zach, and maybe you're in the market. Andrew, you're looking at the banking side of this. Everyone, I mean, we're all involved in this to some extent, but maybe Andrew, you could start off, and then Zach, maybe next.
Well, it would be a lot easier if Zach just said yes to everything that we showed them. Then it would be great. Then it would be the good. I would say this is like there's a perception and a reality, and it really depends upon how. Or have you, as an entrepreneur or CEO, have you been trying to raise capital? From a banker's perspective, we see in every market companies coming to the market to raise capital. And I would say, when I looked at those four answers, there wasn't a perfect one. I was sort of leaning more towards business as usual, because from a private capital perspective, we're just limiting the conversation to that. It hasn't been easy for a number of years. And it has really been a consistent theme of haves and have-nots. So you see the splashy deals where there's some company that raises 100, 200 million. A lot of times that took quarters, years to make happen. So you see it at the moment when it happened, but there's a lot of work that went on behind that. And if you were asked the folks involved in that, they'd probably say it was a lot more difficult than they would have thought. And then there's a lot of companies who are perpetually trying to raise capital. It's going on. And I think when you step back, I think there's a number of at least observations that I have, fielding a lot of calls from companies looking to raise capital. One, I think it's critically important to really understand your data. I know it sounds sort of easy, but I've been sometimes surprised that under a significant investigation, the data may not be as clean as you might think. And so I think understanding what you have before you go to the financing markets, because the truth will come out, and in there is wasted time and energy. So I think it's having an honest assessment of, is it worth continuing to fund? What are the right ways of funding it? Speaking of research dollars versus for-profit dollars, where should it be funded? In what universe should it be funded? For-profit or not-for-profit research dollars? I also think in this environment, we're seeing, I think in a healthy way, which I've always liked about this sector, is a great collaboration, Gil, amongst the strategics and the innovative companies. I think the strategics, I would say, have answered the bell. They've come in to help these younger companies that may be struggling try to get to the next inflection point. And so I think there's been, in some cases, a healthy handoff between that and a more professional round. And I just want to circle back on at least one comment from the previous discussion about the FDA. Having been in banking now for 20 plus years, 25 years, I agree. Zach, it's the crown jewel of our industry. And from my perspective, I haven't seen the recent changes immediately affect companies, but am concerned about what it means for the next, call it 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, and maybe I'll start with the ugly, which is public markets are worse than the numbers that Andrew and Jeff put up. The XBI has companies like Amgen and Gilead in the top 10, huge profitable companies. If you look at development stage biotech, and we invest across all healthcare, but the majority of our portfolio is development stage biotech, small and mid-cap companies that are not profitable yet. And it's down 25% in the last 6 months. So, it's even worse. The good news is that just 3 weeks ago, it's down almost 40%. So we've had a little bounce. Things were really ugly there for a little while. The other good news is we've been here before. First half 22 was terrible with rising rates. First half 16 was terrible. So, the sector is volatile, and we're used to that. I think the other good news is that, diseases don't care if there's a recession. They don't even know. And so, everyone out there working on vision restoring, vision preserving therapies, there are patients waiting for you. People are going to buy insurance, doctors are going to prescribe therapies, so what everyone in this room is doing is really important. We're still making private investments, but in times like these, with public market deep corrections, that's where the greatest opportunities are. When the market bounces back, those public companies are going to come back rapidly, just like we've seen this month. So, I say in a normal year, there's never a normal year. I spend about half my time on public companies and half my time on privates. But in a year like this, it's more like 90-10. So I'm still looking at private companies, looking forward to talking to a lot of people here. We're still doing private deals, but it's going to be tougher. The public markets influence the whole ecosystem.
That's great. We're going to have to wrap up in a minute. What we'll do now, actually, we're going to try something new. So it's an innovation meeting. And since we've taken everyone down with some of the realities here, we're going to try something new as we've invented a new game show to challenge the knowledge of our esteemed panel here. And we call it Name That Stock. So let's see how this game goes. And what it's going to be as a challenge, we're going to show our panel 5 companies, just the stock chart, and see if they can tell us what the company is. In each of them, there's a little bit of learning by what the chart is that I think we could get a little discussion going. So let's maybe we can have the audience cheer them on. Let's hear tell the panel, name that stock. No, ready? Okay, here we go. All right, thank you, contestants. And now we'll have our first stock chart. So this is mystery stock 1. And I'll help you guys out a little bit. The chart, if it's green, it means that it's closed. This is a 1-year chart, and it's showing the stock price. If it's green, it means it's closed higher than where it started out a year ago. And this one should be an easy one. Anyone? Oh, I see one of our contestants raising his microphone. No, Jeff?
It's Alcon.
Alcon. Ding, ding, ding. Okay, Alcon. And why do you say that? How do you know it's Alcon?
I watch the stock.
So this stock, as I think Andrew alluded to, this is the T-Rex of our industry. It's relatively stable. It's very diversified. And so you see some volatility in it, but I don't know, you guys who are in the public markets, this for what we've been going through, you would say, how would you characterize this company? Something you'd want to own or not touch, or what would you say about it?
Rock solid. Look at it. I mean, this is what people are fleeing to in markets like these. There was a dip at the beginning of April, and it came right back. So,
yeah, great. Okay, good. All right, great job on that one. Let's go to the next one. Let's see. So this was Alcon. Let's go to this one. Maybe not as good a story. So this one.
Star Surgical.
Star Surgical. Ding, ding, ding. Wow, these are too easy. So how did you get that so fast, Andrew?
Well, I'm really good friends with Tom Frenzy, so he just watch the stock price.
Yeah. I mean, I think we could talk, and maybe, Kristen alluded to this. This is a one product. It's a great product. It's a great company. It's in the cash pay market, and I think it's had some challenges developing the refractive surgery market, particularly in the U.S., which is for the whole sector. And we would like to see this sector grow. And I think you showed some challenges. I mean, a question would be, in today's, with consumer confidence going down, can the market grow, or are we going to go through a period where we need to wait for it to come out? I don't know if, Kristen, you've looked at this a lot.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting one because they are very overexposed to the APAC market and single product company for the most part, and it's exceptional technology, and they worked really hard to get it on the market. But the timing of kind of building that US launch and then this happening is unfortunate. I think when it comes to refractive surgery, it's going to come down to that surgeon marketing in their market and getting experience with the technology and getting good patient results under their belt. And I think you'll start to see that slowly build in the US, but I just think you're not going to have the explosion like you might want it to have.
Okay. Great, great. And by the way, we should say we're going to show some stocks that have gone down. This is nothing on the company. These are all great companies. They've good teams doing this. They're dealing with realities out there that we're all dealing with in the innovation space. Let's go to the next one here. Another challenging story, different company. Any thoughts here? A little tougher. People are thinking. Oh, Zach.
Could be one of mine. Is this RxSight?
RxSight, excellent. All right, good. It's good you can recognize your own company. That's terrific.
I don't stare at stock charts. So,
Yeah, this great company, very innovative. This took years and years to develop, similar to Star, in the commercial marketplace. Just very tough in the premium channel. You could tell us firsthand that it's. Yeah,
I mean, tremendous success if you go back further. Great rise and guided down. In early April, so some headwinds in the sector, but unique technology, and we love it. So love it long term. We've been invested for 10 years. Every surgeon we talk to wants to implant the LAL in their own eyes and their family's eyes. So.
Yeah, great company. All right, now let's get to some better stories. This one, green, going up a lot. Anyone have some thoughts on this one? This one's a little tougher. I'll give you a hint. Look at the last month or so. Really hasn't changed at all. Kristen's saying maybe she knows it.
I looked at it. No, I don't know. I know, but it's not. But I don't know.
No one's willing to take a chance?
I don't like to get things wrong, Gil.
It's okay to be wrong up here. Hey, we're doing innovation. We're wrong most of the time.
He doesn't like my guess.
I don't. Okay. Well.
No.
You want me to tell him what you think it is?
Too high. I think
No? Give us a name. Go on. No? All right. Well, we're going to have to go forward. This is Lenzar. Is that what anyone was thinking?
Oh yeah, because they're.
And the reason that it's flat, Alcon is acquiring it, so the stock is not going to change. Now, interestingly, what market is this company in?
Oh, they're in the premium market. Yeah.
Patient
pay.
It's in the refractive market. So this is a much improved femto, some would say. And so even though they're in a cash pay market, Alcon really made what you guys could tell me, kind of a contrarian investment. It was maybe a value was going to go up higher, so they got it now. But this is a good example of a company that was public, was taking, they were doing well, but now they had enough value that they could get an acquisition even in an ugly environment that we've talked about. So there is some hope out there. And then we'll quickly wrap up. Let's go to this last one. Anyone on this one? A couple people should be able to get this one.
Tarsus?
Tarsus. So Tarsus, treatment for Demodex. This is an incredible story, venture-backed. It's been at our meeting multiple times and went public and has had very good commercial performance and has created a whole new category of blepharitis dry eye treatment and is able to create a lot of value for investors and also get a product to the market. So we're running low on time. I want to thank our contestants. Thank you very much. That was very fun. And we'll move on.